Last year, Wacom released two of my favorite products, the Movink 11 and the Movink 14, two different Android tablets. And I like the 14 so much that I've been making an effort to grab it when I go to draw instead of my iPad. Now, it has been over a year and a half, and I still reach for it. Have my thoughts and opinions changed in all of that time of using it? Let's find out.
This is Brad. He likes to review the tech. He also likes to draw. And this here is his theme song.
Now, at first glance, these might look like the same Android tablet, just at different sizes, but that's definitely not the case. The 11-inch Movink isn't just smaller, but Wacom meant it to be an entry-level drawing tablet, and they meant the 14 to be more geared towards pros, and the specs of these devices show that. The 11-inch has a lower-end budget MediaTek Helio G99 processor. The 14-inch has an upper mid-level Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 processor. The 11-inch has a really nice LCD display, 90 Hz, and a nice pixel dense resolution, but the 14-inch one-ups it with an OLED display and a 120 Hz refresh rate. There's a lot of other things going on here in terms of the specs, but I think those are the core specs and the specs that really define the difference in price between these two devices. Also, I will link these down below, along with all the other tablets that I'm going to talk about and compare these two throughout this video. And of course, if you want to do like deep dive research over on my website, I rank everything I review. What makes both of these tablets really good to me is Wacom's Pro Pen 3. It comes in the box. This is not an additional accessory. It is the star of the show. Both of these tablets' displays have a matte coating on them. What that does is it gives you a little bit more texture, which is great for drawing. Combine that with the responsiveness of the pen, and you get a really good drawing experience. Sometimes when I'm reviewing something and I get a pen, I have to figure out why or why I do not like it. Why does it feel right? Sometimes you just pick up a pen and you're like, yeah, this is great. Why is it great? That's what happened with these tablets. Taking Wacom's really good stylus and then combining it with the Android apps that tend to be leaner and more responsive than desktop drawing apps is just a really great combo. Of course, there are limitations there as well. Android apps aren't as robust as what you might find on Windows or Macs. Usually. We'll talk about that in a minute. Wacom made this pen modular, so you can buy some extra accessories for it, like a wider barrel, weights to go in the back of the pen to make it just feel better in your hand. Now, those extra accessories just come standard in some of Wacom's pro-level products, but they don't come here with this device in the box. You're just getting the base pen. It is a slim pen. Now, I don't mind slim pens. This is a little thinner and definitely lighter than the Apple Pencil. And after using it with accessories for the last several months on end, I have just gotten used to that experience, and I love that experience. For this re-review, I did take those off and just went with the slim pen. And oh man, I did miss those extra features. But the barrel, it did feel too thin to me. And when you put the barrel on it, those buttons are more recessed. So when I took it off, I found myself accidentally like pressing those buttons with my thumb while I was just moving around with the pen. Now on Android, those buttons aren't nearly as important as they are on the desktop. Basically, it like toggles between your brush and your eraser and that sort of thing. But from a like tactile experience of feeling the buttons and feeling them click all the time, it did kind of bug me. Now I understand Wacom is offering this set as an upgrade, albeit a $30 upgrade. It would have been nice to include at least a barrel here in the box. Now, I did see on Amazon, third parties are stepping up and offering just the barrel option for another $10. So if you do get the pen in your hands and you feel like you want something more substantial, there are options out there. If you are a beginner just getting into art and you thought, hey, it would be fun to sign up for an art class, something structured so you have some lessons to go to every day, or maybe just go at your own pace, you should check out my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course. Every day, a new lesson, complete with homework for you to do. But if you're looking to do a deeper dive into digital art, things like the brushes, techniques with layers, and blending modes, check out my other course, Intro to Digital Art. You can learn about both of those courses over at bradsartschool.com. Now, even though I'm talking about both of these tablets today, I haven't used the 11-inch nearly as much as I've used the 14-inch over the last few months. The 14 has really become a big part of my workflow. The 11, though, I was mostly getting it out now and then just to compare it to some of the other Android tablets that I was testing at the time. So about 2 weeks ago, as I was planning this video, I decided to give that one a little bit more attention. So as a tablet, setting aside the drawing stuff, it just works better for things like watching content, reading things, just portability, putting it into a bag and going out. The 14-inch Movink is a really big tablet to hold for a really long time, and the 11-inch is just more manageable. And when you get into Android drawing apps, they tend to be lighter weight. There's not as much interface elements, so you do have a large amount of your canvas to work with. And having all of that extra screen real estate in most apps just isn't nearly as important as it is like on a desktop experience. The one exception being Krita, which is now available on Android. You have a lot more drawing space on the 14-inch if you're using that. In my original review, there were no accessories for this yet. That's something that other brands do really well. They provide cases and keyboard covers and things like that. Since then, Wacom has rolled out a couple of accessories, nothing too fancy. They have like a little fold-out stand that's nice and portable. They have like a little dust cover to keep it from getting scratched when you put it in a bag. And oh my gosh, those things together are $160. Oh my bad, it's on sale right now for $153. Anyway, that's nuts. Don't buy those. You can find a perfectly nice stand and bag for far less. Now, even though Wacom isn't providing a lot of different accessories for this, there are some third-party case makers that are stepping up to provide some pretty decent options for a pretty good price if you want to keep your tablet protected. I could not find a keyboard cover option type thing for this device. If you wanted to go that route, I guess you could get like a standard case and just use a Bluetooth keyboard. It's not an all-in-one. It's not quite as convenient. This wasn't a big deal for me because I'm not going to be typing on this, but I know for a lot of people, if you're going to be spending as much as you have to spend on one of these devices, you probably want to use it for a lot of tasks outside of drawing, you know, so the idea of writing or typing emails or doing that sort of thing is really appealing if you have a device that can do it. Now, when we're talking about raw performance, horsepower, I was never really worried about the 14-inch because it's plenty powerful enough for anything that I want to do. It also comes with 256 gigabytes of storage compared to the 128 available on the 11. If you are storing videos and if you are doing that sort of thing, that space is probably going to fill up pretty quickly. This is probably not the tablet you want to do that. When I originally tested the 11-inch, I was wondering if I would see a big difference in that power and that performance, and at times I would see windows taking a little bit longer to close, or if I was swiping back and forth, I could tell there were like little micro stutters in there as it was thinking. Something that I wasn't really seeing on the 14-inch. It was nothing crazy, but it was definitely noticeable at times. Other times, once everything was kind of loaded up into RAM, it was pretty snappy and pretty fast. Now, using drawing apps was another area where I thought the tablet held up pretty well. Not a lot of lag, and I loved the feel of the pen. So generally, we're talking about a really good performance. I can make a bunch of layers, I can draw with textured pencils, and it didn't really slow down. Now, these are Android tablets, so you are limited to just Android apps, so no Adobe. I am using Clip Studio Paint a lot here. That's my favorite thing to draw on Android. It's one of my favorite things to draw on, period. One of the nice things about the latest versions of Clip Studio is that they've created like an Android and iPad type interface, so it is more streamlined. But if you need all of the features that Clip Studio provides, you can always flip back to like Clip Studio mode, or I should call it desktop mode, where you can see all the features that you get on the desktop. Now, Clip Studio is a paid subscription, at least here on Android, but there are some free apps available out there, some really good ones. iBez Paint X, Krita, both fantastic alternatives. And then there's some other alternatives that are like pay once, get your features sort of things out there too. Now, Wacom has their own software here, and I actually haven't used it since my review, so sorry, Wacom. There are two apps, actually. Wacom Canvas, which is a very basic drawing app. It's cool because the main feature here is that you can wake your tablet from sleep just by touching the screen with the Pro Pen 3. No password, no anything. It just boots up this Wacom sketch thing and you can start drawing on it. So I think they were going for like that sketchbook feel, so it doesn't feel like an Android tablet. You could just start drawing on it with a pen and you're good to go. It's a cool idea, but I never needed to get to my sketchbook that quickly. The other app that they include here is like a gallery app, which just collects a bunch of JPEGs together, and it's kind of a nice way to look at all your work. Both of those also let you take those sketches that you made and push them over to Clip Studio Paint to finish them up. Now, my favorite thing, I can't believe it's taken me this long in the video to get to this point. In my review, I talked about the second screen feature that Wacom added to their tablet. This was something that was only available on the 14-inch. It basically takes this Android tablet and turns it into a Wacom Cintiq tablet for your Mac or Windows PC. There is a touch of latency here. This is something that you will notice if you use it a lot. I definitely noticed it more now than I did initially when I was reviewing it, just because I've used it a lot more. But overall, it's pretty good, and it's one of the better implementations of this feature that I've seen. There were so many times where I just needed to do something really quickly in Photoshop, maybe draw an arrow for a thumbnail, make some quick handwritten text, that sort of thing. It's great for that. It also works pretty well over Wi-Fi. There's definitely some more latency over Wi-Fi, but for like those quick edits and that sort of thing, it works well. Now, like I said, at launch, this was available for the 14, but now this is really cool. You can use it on the 11 as well. It's buried in the settings underneath something called Wacom Labs. It is super easy to miss. Even on the 14, it's super easy to miss. You have to know it's there and you have to go looking for it. And it kind of breaks my heart that there's a whole bunch of people walking around with 11-inch versions of this tablet who have no idea what they're missing. Even though I love this feature, I think it's great that they've added it in here. I would not buy this just for that feature. If you want to use this as a Cintiq and then occasionally use it as an Android tablet, you're probably better off going with like a traditional Wacom tablet. But as a bonus feature that you'll use from time to time, it is great. Oh, also worth noting, complete pain in the ass to set up. Be warned, I don't want to sugarcoat that. It is not fun. Aaron Rutten has a video on how to get that up and running. I will link that down below. Go watch that. He explains it super well. And you only have to do it once. So once it's set up, you're good to go. How do these tablets compare to other Android tablets out there? As far as bang for your buck, if you care about how much horsepower you're getting for every dollar that you spend, that's not what these are. The Samsung Galaxy lineup, way better for that. Some of the offerings from companies like Xiaomi, better for that. What you're getting here, what makes these tablets special is that Pro Pen 3. It is the drawing experience, which is hands down my favorite on any Android device. Samsung's Galaxy Pens come pretty close to this experience, but those are glossy screens, which look fantastic, but the pens don't have that additional grip, that natural feel that this does on this matte screen, even though those tablets are just better hardware. Now, comparing this to the iPad, oh man, that could be its own video. How do I say this quickly? I love the Apple Pencil. I love apps like Procreate, Adobe Fresco, apps that you can't get here. The organic feel of the pen on this screen is better here. I often put a screen protector on my iPads to emulate that feel, and it works pretty well. Over the last several months, I did find myself just gravitating back to the iPad because of the software experience and just my familiarity with the Apple ecosystem. I had to kind of stop myself every few weeks and say, no, go back to this. I want to be testing this. I want to see how this works long term. Stop using your iPad. Another area where other tablets have a big step up on Wacom is support, and this is a big one. Wacom is new to the Android game, and it shows. This was something I had not considered in my initial review, and I wish I had. We're talking about software updates. The good news here is that Wacom has been providing security updates to Android 14, the most recent update being in February. But what about major updates? The 11-inch version is running Android 14, and that 14-inch version is running Android 15. Just to give you some context, the current version of Android that's out there now is 16, with the next version 17 expected this summer. Who cares? Why does this matter? Some software makers stopped supporting old versions of Android after a while. A great example of this came last year when XP Pen's original Android tablet could no longer run Clip Studio Paint because Clip Studio had stopped supporting the version of Android it was running, Android 11. As a rule of thumb, I figure I want a piece of tech like this, for me, to last at least 5 years. A lot of you want your tech to last longer. So to find out 2.5 years after the launch of an XP Pen tablet that you can't use your favorite drawing app anymore, that just kind of sucks. And I blame both Clip Studio and XP Pen for this failure. XP Pen for not supporting their tablet property, and Clip Studio for not having a longer tail. Especially because Clip Studio is now a subscription program. That is literally what you are paying your subscription for, ongoing support. Anyway, initially, Wacom was telling their customers who reached out to support that they would not be updating Android on these tablets. And that was a problem. And a lot of people in the community pushed back hard on that. Wacom ended up replying to a Reddit thread, and here's what they said. The Movink Pad 14 currently ships with Android 15. We're committed to supporting the longevity and performance of our devices. While the Movink Pad Pro 14 currently runs Android 15, we are actively evaluating future OS updates, including Android 16 and beyond, as well as ongoing security updates. At this time, we haven't published a formal update schedule, but rest assured that any planned updates will be announced through our official channels once finalized. We appreciate your patience and enthusiasm as we continue to enhance the Movink Pad experience. Thank you and have an awesome day. So that was 6 months ago and we haven't heard anything yet. It sounds really promising, but promising is different than an actual promise. I would love for Wacom to come out and make a concrete schedule on what they plan to do here, because that is literally the one hesitation I have about these tablets. It would be horrible if Clip Studio Paint 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, stopped working on perfectly good hardware. And this is the one area where Samsung and some of the other tablet makers out there just run circles around Wacom. So those are my general feelings after several months of using the Wacom Movink pads. Still months later, I absolutely love them. I do worry about the longevity of these products. That's the biggest thing. But if Wacom can come through with the software updates on that front, these will hold up incredibly well. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.